Good evening, folks, and welcome to the ZMS live stream of the Love Team Time Trial. It's a 21-kilometer route tonight, and OTR Black are going head-to-head with OTR Green. Now then, it's a 5-man per team time trial with the first 3 riders to count. So the third rider is the time we take. And before we go live, I will just mention that OTR Black have already ridden this course. We don't have the time, or we're not going to publish the time, because we're going to show it as a head-to-head. So OTR Black is pre-recorded, but OTR Green are live on the line as we speak. We'll set them both off at the same time, and we'll watch them going head-to-head. This should be quite exciting. It's been a while since I've covered a team time trial, so let's hope we can do it justice. But we've got James Ogilvie, Keith, hang on, it's swapping around a bit at the moment. We should have 5 riders here on the line. Yeah, we've got James Ogilvie, Keith, I think it's Nick Patricos, Tony Simmons and Peter Brook Varvel riding for OTR Black. It looks like I'm hoping we've got the 5 riders for OTR Green. I only see 4 riders, so is there a problem here? In fact, I only see 3 riders because one of them is the ZMS camera. With the race starting, I hope we haven't got a technical here. Anyway, 3 riders to count, so perhaps OTR Green are just going to go with the 3. Yes, it looks like that's the race. So this will be interesting, because can 3 riders match the OTR Black 5 riders, and are we going to be able to stay together? Obviously the 3-man team of OTR Green are going to need to stay together for the complete race, because it's the 3rd rider of the line. So they're off. Now it's not, we're going to give time splits along the way, but you're going to be able to see the riders pushing out on the front. As you can see, James Ogilvie here for OTR Black, and we've got Adrian taking up the lead for OTR Green. But James is one of the stronger riders in this group. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So I imagine James will do a lot of the pulling, but he's got strong legs in Keith and Peter. Tony Simmons and Nick at the moment are at the back, but it will take them a while to get into a rhythm, because unless they've practiced this, and it's a relatively new discipline, they're going to be a little bit out of sorts in terms of the techniques required. Team time trialing is a difficult discipline if you haven't done it, particularly virtual team time trialing, because everybody's on different trainers with different power outputs in terms of the way that the trainer reacts. So they have to obviously be watching the screen, they're talking to each other on Discord, and they have to try and basically match each other's power for the racing. It's not like racing in a group where you're a solo, where it doesn't matter if you're swinging backwards and forwards. In a team time trial, the aim is to try and take advantage of the drafting, as you can see them doing here. And we got Mike Aid on the front here, Adrian Bennett in 2nd place, and Gordon Jackson in 3rd. So they're the 3 riders for OTR Green. I must say they're looking smooth. They're looking nice and compact, nice and smooth. Mike Aid, yeah, one of the stronger riders, so he's doing a nice pull here on the front. But expect them to swap around. When Mike's pace starts to drop, then the rider should come through and take over. But you can already see that OTR Black are they're about 5 kilometers faster at this point, and a 5-man team is always going to go faster than a 3-man team. It's a shame that we didn't have 5 men for OTR Green. I don't know what the reason is, whether it's technicals on the line or they just couldn't muster the riders for this event. But we don't know. I'll find that out later. But yes, there's a little bit of difference in the speeds here between the two groups, and you can see that in the top right hand corner where you can see the gradients and the speeds. So it's between 4 and 5 kilometer difference, which is going to make a significant difference over this 21 kilometer course. That's going to be a couple of minutes, I would have thought, if they maintain that. Unless OTR Green can raise the pace, then yeah. However, I think what's going to happen with OTR Black is I don't expect all 5 of the riders to stay together. They're not looking as well drilled as OTR Green. And that's no disrespect, that's just although they're getting into a better rhythm now, and they are doing through and off, which is the whole point of the team time trial. Everybody doing a fair turn on the front, whereas with these 3 riders, obviously the riders are doing longer pulls on the front. Gordon's a very strong rider as well, so yeah. And the basic format, as we saw in the Tour de France, is that the more powerful riders, the stronger riders, or the riders more suited to time trialing, like Mr. Armstrong used to do, will obviously take the bulk of the pulls, or the premium pulls on the front. You can see here that James, Peter, and Keith have, although I can't see Keith at the moment, I don't know where he is. He must be there somewhere. Yes, he is. In fact, no, Keith, it looks like Keith has had a problem. So we don't know. We're down to 4 now. So Keith has dropped. Now, whether he's just done his work for the evening, I suspect not. I suspect Keith has had some kind of an issue, because he's a stronger rider than this, and I wouldn't have expected him to have been dropped from this group. So I suspect that there's, in fact, he's showing no power. So Keith's possibly had a dropout or a technical. We call it punctures in the virtual world as well. Yeah, something's gone wrong there. So OTR Black are down to 4 riders. We're 4 kilometers in for OTR Black, 3.8 for, this is what I'm saying about, there is a good difference here. I think it's no secret OTR Black are by far stronger riders than OTR Green, even though this is a head-to-head. It's all good fun, it's all good camaraderie as well. But they are without a doubt riding this, although having said that, OTR Green have raised the pace slightly to try and stay within reach. And it will be interesting to see what the time gaps are. Now, while we're watching them swapping over, it looks like Patricios has also now had a problem and dropped out. Now, has he had a dropout, or has he decided, okay, I've done my bit of work, that's enough for me, I can't manage it anymore? These are questions, folks, that you have to try and answer yourself. You're watching the video along with me, and I don't know whether these riders are having technicals or whether this is the team tactic. We don't have Discord ourselves, so we can't listen in on them. It would probably be a private channel anyway, but the riders will be talking to each other. They'll know exactly what they're doing. So it's now a head-to-head 3 riders against 3 riders, which is nice. We've got Gordon, Mike and Adrian here, the 3 riders for OTR Green, and then we've got James, Tony Simmons and Peter Brook-Ravel, the free riders for OTR Black. Now, James and Peter, I would say, are the stronger riders here, but Tony's no slouch. I don't think he'll have any difficulty staying with them. So, and the stronger riders will obviously do the main pulling, as Gordon gives us a thumbs up from OTR Green. He's obviously he's not working flat out at the moment. We can't really pull up individual riders, folks, and see the heart rates in this. Although, having said that, you can see we've got Tony highlighted here, and you can see his power output and his heart rate. So yeah, individually we're going between them. One of them here, James, looks like his heart rate monitor isn't working, which is very naughty of you, James, but it's probably not your fault. There is an issue with RGT and heart rate monitors. It's well documented in the forums, so I'm not going to criticize anybody for a non-working heart rate monitor until they get that fixed. Yeah, I think it's a Bluetooth issue, but I could be wrong there. We've seen it in a lot of the main races as well, where heart rate monitors are really required. Some riders having problems getting them to work. But back to the racing. This is looking nice now. We've got, and OTR Green have actually, because we're down to 3 riders each section, OTR are actually staying within reach of this. And the way we can see that, folks, is if you look at the, obviously the time splits are identical, but look at the distance covered, and you can see that OTR Green have covered 6.34 and 6.87, I think it was, for OTR Black. So not a great deal of distance at this speed, and certainly what is it now? Yeah, it's not much at all. 500 meters maybe. So if it's 500 meters at this speed, you're looking at what, 20 odd seconds maybe. No, sorry, 40 seconds maybe. So it'll be interesting to see whether OTR Green can stay in touch, or whether OTR Black are able to increase this gap. I mean, James is pushing good power here, 300 watts. So that's good power output. He's putting in a dig there, and Tony's having to dig deep as well to get on his wheel, putting in 450 watts you saw there. So a big dig there from James to try and up the pace, which is basically what the man on the front tries to do. As you can see, Gordon doing exactly the same here. 356 watts he was putting out. Mike gets close on his wheel, which is the perfect thing to do, and then goes past as Gordon takes his rest and recovery. And this is good time trialing from OTR Green, I have to say. This is good, well drilled. Now, a small point, folks. I'm an OTR team member, although I'm not doing much riding at the moment, but I am an OTR team member, and what I would like to see, if you're listening, folks, and you'll certainly listen later as you watch this, I'd like to see you all on the same bikes and in the same kit with the same colour helmets. If you look at some of the other teams, in particular the no pins teams in the team time trials, they're well drilled, but they're also wearing identical matching kit, right down to the helmet, the socks, the bikes, everything. And it looks very, very professional, even in the digital world. So it would be nice if OTR can speak to each other, speak to the members, and all get on the same bikes. Because look, we've got 3 different bikes here, and while they're looking a well-drilled unit, you know, it looks so much better. Like you can see, these 3 riders are all on the same bikes, and the only difference is one of them is wearing a different coloured helmet. But apart from that, they're wearing the same kit. So it would be nice if the riders turn up and all wear matching kit. That's just a personal thing. But what's the gap grown to now? Let's have a look. We've got Mike looks to be taking a bit of recovery here on the back of this group, but we've got 8:52 against 9:27, so 700 meters, give or take. So yeah, OTR Black are increasing the gaps ever so slightly. But what I would expect is that each team will probably bury themselves as we're coming to the last 5 kilometers. So the last quarter of the race really is going to be where we see them really pushing it on and giving everything for that last 5 kilometers. But they have got to stay together. When team time trialing like this, even though this is just 3 riders, you have got to stay together. You can't afford to have like 2 and 3 bike lengths between the riders, because it's so much harder to draft, and you're having to put out so many more watts to follow your teammates. So you want to be a maximum of 1.5 bike lengths away, and that's maximum. Ideally you want to be half a wheel behind. You can see here OTR Black are obviously feeling strong because they're not actually riding in line, in line. They're actually riding line abreast, i.e. side by side, which doesn't make an awful lot of sense. But yeah, they're all putting out the same wattage, I suppose. I think a little bit more practice required here from OTR Black. I think they could probably improve. There's the halfway point, the yellow banner that you've just seen them going under. Now let's have a look and see when OTR Green get to the yellow banner. So while I'm waffling along, I should be getting close to it now. That's about 30 seconds already, so yeah, it's going to be... I didn't actually time this one, and maybe I should have done, but yeah, that's certainly more than 40 seconds now, so maybe OTR Black have already got a minute at the halfway point. In fact, yeah, I called it right, it is about a minute. A minute and... what's that, 6, so 10, a minute and 10 seconds they've got. Yeah, so I said about 2 minutes would probably be the gap at the end. So if they stay as they are, then that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at a 2-minute difference, which wasn't difficult to calculate if you divide sort of like 21 kilometers by the 4 kilometer, 5 kilometer difference in speed that they were doing, then yeah, you come up with about 2 minutes difference. Now the question here is, can OTR Green close the gap? Have they got enough left, or are they just going to have to absolutely bury themselves to stay within touch and reach? I mean, OTR Black are pushing big watts here. You can see OTR Green are as well, but they're going into the red. I mean, so there is it's a bit of a mismatch, this, I feel, in terms of strength of riders. These riders here are putting out much higher watts, certainly the ones on the front, than OTR Green. So yeah, it's a bit of a mismatch, but still good fun. Now this is the slope section of the climb, and it'll be interesting to see how much this affects the team time trial. It's long enough to cause gaps between the riders, as you can see here. Mike, who's probably one of the one of the bigger riders of these three, as you can see, he's dropping off the back. So they're going to have to wait for him. They're going to have to slow down and let him get back on the wheel, which you can see Mike going in the red there to try and close up as quick as he can onto the wheel. But this will be hurting him, and he's going to pay for this, closing this gap up. You can see he's putting in more watts than the guys in front, or he was. He'll get on the wheel as quick as he can. I mean, we're coming into a plateau section, a flat section again, and then we got that bit of blue downhill. So Mike will certainly rejoin these two, but they are slowing for him. You can see Gordon on the front there had slowed it down to 1.5 watt kilos, so definitely slowed for him. And now they'll pick it up again now that, but the thing is, Gordon, there you saw him putting a spurt going off the front, but they can't really do that with Mike, because Mike will need some recovery, so they can't just put the hammer down. There you go. And this is exactly what I'm saying, folks. This is why you need to practice team trialing, because you could clearly see there that Mike Aid hadn't recovered enough to stay on the wheel. Now there you could see Tony got dropped on the climb, but was able to come back to these two riders, James and Peter. There was a good gap there, but Tony knew what he was doing and knew he was able to get back on the descent, so which is what he did. It'll be interesting here to see what happens to these three riders on the descent. Will Mike push off the front and get a bit of a breather, and then the other two close up, and the three of them then work together, or will they all stay together on the descent? It'll be interesting, because Mike is definitely, I don't think you'll mind me saying, probably the heavier of these three. So obviously he's the one that suffers the most on the climbs, but has the advantage on the downhill. But you need recovery. If your teammates, open up a gap as soon as you rejoin them after a climb, as Adrian and Gordon did, Mike was struggling to get back to them and not getting the recovery that he needed. So he's drafting now. He's drafting. You can see he was down to 0.5 of a watt there. So he's actually freewheeling and recovering here, which is what he needs to do. This clever tactics from Mike, and he is a canny rider. So he'll be looking forward to the downhill. I've no doubt about that. So we're about 2/3 in, folks. 12.5 kilometers done by OTR green, 14 kilometers done by OTR black. So there's a little bit of a difference here now. The gap is growing. I think the climb and the fact that the three riders from OTR black are reasonably stronger than OTR green. I think the climb is what opened up that gap. Because they'd be able to go up it at higher watts and pull the gap out even more, which is what you've seen here. The gap has now grown to about 1.7 1.7 kilometers, so it's grown pretty significantly because of that climb. Now we have another short climb coming up shortly, but prior to the climb it starts to go uphill anyway, and that is going to be telling as well. And I think you'll see OTR black, the stronger boys, again getting an advantage on this next rise, and then probably taking that into the finish. So maybe I'm not going to be correct with because I failed to take that into account when I said 2 minutes. So I think the gap here is going to be significantly more than 2 minutes by the end of the time trial, and that's because stronger riders going uphill, they're going to take more time out of the lads behind. But this is interesting, and what I'd like to see later in the series, and I assume ZMS will probably cover more of this series, and I'm certainly up for commentating. I'd really like to see, shall we say, OTR Black going up against one of the no pins or Team 3R teams as well. That they're a bit more closely matched, and then I think they'd really have to sort out their tactics and become more polished. This is a relatively easy run for OTR Black, although they have no idea what time OTR Green are doing, but they will know that they're stronger riders. Tony's putting in a good ride here prior to the climb, and I think he knows what he's doing here. What Tony's doing here is he's trying to get to the base of the climb. Obviously, the two riders behind will close up on him as they're doing. But yeah, if you think you might struggle on the climb, then you're always good to take a little bit of a jump off the front, shall we say. Maybe not in a team time trial, but yeah, they can afford to do this. Yeah, Nick, this format does look interesting, doesn't it? Like I say, it would be nice if we could have more riders, more than just the three. I mean, the fact that two have dropped out and we're down to the 3 riders required, it would be nice to see the drafting technique showing in these time trials. So I think we've got to get teams putting in, a 5-man team and them being more closely matched. I mean, it's no secret. OTR Green, they're doing a good job here, but they're struggling because the abilities here are not well matched. But it's a great format, and I, for one, would look forward to seeing more teams. And OTR have got about 6 teams, I believe, which is probably why they're spread thin on the ground. But the nice thing is, I believe in this series you can swap and change around riders, and if that's the case, then try and get more riders in a team that can work together to stay working well together, towards the middle or the end of the time trial, rather than 3 riders like this just having to do the bulk of the work, well, all the work. So we've got 5 kilometers to go for OTR Green, so we're getting towards the point where they're going to start, and you can see Mike Aid there was going into the red. So the riders are going to start giving everything now. Mike, I don't know, I think he's suffering. I think the fact that he's having to go into the red, I think he's suffering a bit. Whereas these 3 riders just look like they're on a Sunday stroll, a club run. I mean, yeah, they're putting out 4.9 watt kilos, and there you just saw Tony going into the red. So I'm not saying they're not working, they are. Tony's again going into the red, James going into the red. Now, I did say that at the 5 kilometre to go point, and they're actually at 3.2 kilometres, I did say that the guys would start to up it. They'd up the pace and they'd start to give everything they've got, and they're doing that. I mean, these riders, if they're putting out 5 watt kilos, they're at the max. They really are. They're really going into the red, they're working hard, and full credit to them for that. But they're killing it. It's a bit of a mismatch, this, because they're going to finish 2 kilometres in front of the team behind, and I'd like to have seen a bit of a closer race. But it's nice to see the OTR boys on the tarmac racing well together, and I can't help thinking poor Mike is having to dig into the red here. We saw Gordon just briefly touching red, but Mike seems to be spending, I think he's struggling to hang on to the 2 boys in front. and I don't think you'll mind me saying that. So what the guys are going to have to do is they're going to have to not wait for Mike, but they're going to have to take that into account. They know they can't push on because Mike is really struggling to stay with them, and this is slowing them down dramatically. Adrian and Gordon can't push off the front and leave him behind, because you know, if he's 2 bike lengths behind, then he's having to work so much harder. He needs to be in the draft, he needs to be where he is now. Now he doesn't certainly want to take a turn because he's already struggling, and you can see here, look, he's really struggling to hold the wheel. And this is no disrespect to Mike. I have a lot of respect for all the OTR riders, but he's struggling, and this clearly shows in the fact that you know what he's having to do here. And it's a bit of a shame because these 3 are riding so well together. They're evenly matched, I would say, and I think they'll finish well together. High wattage as well. I mean, yeah, we're already 2 kilometers. I said it would be more than 2. So with 1.4 kilometers to go for Team OTR Black, they're already 2 kilometers up, and that's increasing. So yeah, but this is a really good time trial, and it's going to be a good time from OTR Black. Now we've got 3.3 kilometers for OTR Green, so yeah, they're just over 2 kilometers behind. Here's the 1 kilometer to go banner for OTR Black. There they go under it, and they'll really be pushing the red numbers now. You can see James, Tony there, but the man on the front will definitely be, you know, pushing the red numbers here, and expect to see all 3 of them going red as they get into these final 500 meters. Really pushing the watts here. 5.3, 6.7, yeah. Tony really digging deep, trying to stay on the front, trying to give everything he's got. He's doing a fantastic job. James will probably, has he got enough to take over? Yeah, he's digging here, look. Going into the red, yeah, there goes James, I knew he would. So James is trying to lead them out to the finish. Team leader and team boss. There we go, Peter taking over, just trying to take as much time as they can towards the finish. 250 meters to go, 200 meters. Here we go, folks. Banner should be just around, you can see it there, just around the bend, the blue banner, and the riders are going to go over it. 30 minutes, and what we're going to have, it's the 3rd rider to cross the line. So yeah, 30:39 I believe. So 30:39 for OTR Black. Remember that figure. Let's see how OTR Green get on. And as I said, I really feel for Mike here. He's suffering and struggling to, and in fact, Gordon, come on Gordon, you need to think about your teammates. Yes, you're the strongest rider of these 3, but you really need to make sure they're on your wheel. Going off the front isn't helping them. So yeah, let them get on your wheel. That's it. Now work well together. Come on, pull Mike along, work well together. I'm not being disrespectful here, folks. I've covered a lot of time trialing. In fact, I used to run time trials, and I know the formats, and this is a very difficult discipline to learn. And the virtual version of it is no different to the real life version. It takes skill and practice to get it right. 1.6 kilometers to go. Red numbers coming from the riders on the front, which is what you would expect. I mean, Adrian is really putting in a lot more wattage, pulling them along than the riders behind, and that's what you should be seeing. You should be seeing the riders behind drafting, and then if one of them, i.e. Gordon, can take over, then Gordon needs to push the red numbers. But Adrian's feeling strong here, obviously, taking a nice pull on the front. Mikey wants to stay in the draft, definitely. 1 kilometre to go, Panna approaching as Gordon takes it up now on the front. Again, numbers going red. Mike struggling to stay on the wheel. He needs to get on the wheel because they can't afford to drop him as they close in on the line. They've got to finish together. Don't forget the time is on the third rider. Now Mike Aid will be giving absolutely he'll be burying himself, and you can see that from the red numbers here. Absolutely burying himself for his teammates. He'll be really trying to get on, you know, to give everything here, everything he's got. Fantastic effort. I mean, all three of them in the red there, look. Absolutely fantastic. You can tell that Mike is absolutely exhausted because when he's drafting and the watts drop to 0 like you just saw there and then suddenly go red, that means that he's gasping for breath. He's trying to get recovery. He's having to go into the red. He's absolutely desperate to get the air into his lungs. Trust me, I know this feeling. But what a fantastic ride. Superb. I think he's done his teammates proud here. And all three of them look approaching the line in the red. Fantastic. Wow, what a time trial. Brilliant. 33.59. So yeah, more than 3 minutes difference between the two of them. We'll get the official times up in a minute. But there we go. So 13.56 and 15.06. No, that can't be right. That was the 10 kilometre split. Sorry. No, I'm going to say that's not the time. Here we go, the finish. So they pulled it out, look. So 59, 20 seconds, 3 minutes and 20 seconds, which is considerably more than the 2 minutes I predicted, but I didn't take into account the climb. I just thought it was a flat time trial. Didn't look at the course until obviously we got there, and the reason why it's larger than 2 minutes is because of the climb. The stronger riders were able to pull away. But that's a fantastic time trial, fantastic format. I really like it. And what we need to see now, and I'm up for commentating, is we need to see tighter battles. Let's have some of the teams more closely matched, please. But great effort from both teams. Well done, OTR. And on that note, folks, I'm going to call it a wrap. We'll see you in the next one. I hope you've enjoyed the broadcast. Stay safe, everybody, and we'll catch you later. I'm signing off. Bye for now.